The drive-thru was designed for speed and convenience. But humanity, in its infinite wisdom, has transformed it into a stage for public absurdity. Some people order food. Others attempt to pay with live alligators, order a single sad French fry, or demand a burger that tells a story. This video is a collection of 49 of the most bizarre, unhinged, and genuinely baffling things that have ever happened at that little window. 1. Some people treat life like a spy movie, even at Taco Bell. A man pulled up to the drive-thru speaker, oozing misplaced confidence, and demanded an item from the secret menu. When the underpaid employee informed him that such a menu doesn't exist, the man leaned in conspiratorially, winked, and whispered, "We both know that's not true." Faced with this level of delusion, the staff chose the path of nuclear-grade malicious compliance. They crafted a burrito containing every single sauce in the restaurant, a chaotic, vengeful, probably inedible monstrosity, and handed it over just to make this culinary secret agent and his fantasies go away forever. 2. There's a fine line between being frugal and being a menace to society. A couple apparently crossed that line, then set up a tent and camped there, by ordering their entire wedding reception catering through a McDonald's drive-thru. Imagine the poor soul on the headset trying to process an order for 72 tacos, 38 burritos, and 15 nachos. The true masterpiece of this tragic order, though, was the single, solitary side of rice. Was that for the efficient? A profoundly sad, symbolic gesture? One can only hope their marriage vows were more carefully considered than their menu planning. 3. Most people have a list of things they wouldn't do for a free meal. One woman apparently did not. She pulled up to a drive-thru window wearing absolutely nothing. Her birthday suit was her outfit of the day. She ordered her food with the casual air of someone who was fully clothed and not causing a multi-car pileup of confused and horrified onlookers. When the manager finally found the courage to ask what was happening, she simply shrugged, stating she assumed drive-thrus were clothing optional. The staff, frozen in a state of existential shock, just handed her the bag and watched her drive off, probably needing years of therapy to recover. 4. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Others prefer to watch themselves get drenched in carbonated sugar water. A customer made a very specific, very suspicious request. He wanted his soda shaken vigorously before being handed to him. The employee, possessing a basic understanding of science and human nature, knew exactly what would happen. But hey, the customer is always right, even when he's an agent of chaos. The man received his agitated beverage, immediately popped the lid, and was engulfed in a soda volcano. He simply nodded with grim satisfaction and said, "As expected," leaving everyone to wonder what philosophical point he was trying to prove. 5. In a bold act of anti-corporate rebellion, a man ordered a McFlurry with one simple yet profound instruction: please remove the mech. The cashier, a weary veteran of the fast food front lines, didn't even flinch. They had seen too much to question this kind of request. They just went back, got a cup of plain vanilla soft serve, and handed it over. A beatific smile spread across the customer's face. "Ah, perfection," he whispered, driving off with his debranded dessert. It was less a snack and more a powerful statement against the golden arches. Or maybe he just had a really bad experience at a children's party once. 6. You can get a lot of things at a drive-thru, but existential validation usually isn't on the menu. A customer, clearly having a rough day, pulled up to the window and asked for a sign of respect. The cashier, a hardened soul with the dead eyes of someone who's been yelled at for a living, responded without a single pause, "We ran out of that in 2006. The customer didn't argue. He didn't demand to see a manager. He just gave a slow, knowing nod and said, "Same." For a brief moment, two strangers connected over the shared, crushing reality that the world had let them both down. And then he drove off with his fries. 7. The 3 a.m. drive-thru shift is a portal to another dimension, and here's the proof. A car pulls up, and the man behind the wheel is in a full-blown clown costume, wig, red nose, the whole terrifying package. The cashier, completely unfazed by this point in their shift, just dryly commented, "Nice costume, man." The clown's cheerful demeanor vanished. He looked around frantically, leaned in close to the window, and whispered with genuine panic, "What costume?" before snatching his bag of food and peeling out of the parking lot. That employee probably just took a sip of their cold coffee and prepared for the next interdimensional traveler to order a milkshake. 8. There's being a picky eater, and then there's being an absurdist food critic. A guy once ordered a single French fry, not a small fry. 1. The cashier, assuming it was a joke, asked if he was serious. He was dead serious. In fact, he added a terrifyingly specific instruction, "And please make it your best one." This wasn't a food order, it was a challenge. You can just picture the kitchen grinding to a halt, the fry cook sweating under the heat lamps, carefully inspecting each potato sliver like a jeweler examining a diamond. The pressure to select that one perfect, divinely crispy fry must have been monumental. 9. Forget self-driving cars. The future of convenience is the self-driving bed. One man, a true pioneer of lethargy, was pushed through a drive-thru by his loyal friends while tucked into a literal bed on wheels. Dressed in pajamas, he placed his order as if this was the most normal commute in the world. To the cashier's eternal credit, they didn't even raise an eyebrow. They'd clearly seen things that would break lesser mortals. Honestly, when you demonstrate that level of commitment to never leaving your mattress, you've earned that burger. He wasn't just lazy, he was living in the year 3025. 10. Some people are just culinary visionaries born into the wrong era. A customer once tried to order sushi at a McDonald's. When the employee gently explained that they specialize in burgers and regret, not raw fish, the man lost it. He slammed his hands on the steering wheel and with the fury of a spurned genius shouted, "Well, you should!" before burning rubber out of the parking lot. You know what? He's not entirely wrong. In a world of McRibs and shamrock shakes, is a McSushi roll really that much of a stretch? Probably, but you have to admire his passion. 11. When you're tired of making your own decisions, why not consult the spirits of the drive-thru? A customer at Taco Bell skipped the menu entirely and instead handed the cashier a crystal ball, demanding they divine the perfect order. The employee, an unsung hero of improvisational theater, didn't miss a beat. They waved their hands mystically over the orb, chanted something about supreme crunchiness, and handed the customer a random burrito. The man gasped, his eyes wide with wonder, and whispered, "You have the gift." Who needs a manager when you have an oracle? 12. There are reasonable ways to complain about a wrong order, and then there's what can only be described as a drive-by burgering. A woman, apparently enraged by the discovery of pickles on her cheeseburger, circled back to the McDonald's drive-thru. But instead of asking for a refund, she launched the offending sandwich back through the window like a beef and bun grenade. She then sped off into the night without another word. No explanation, no demand for a new one, just pure, unadulterated, pickle-fueled rage. Somewhere, a therapist is about to get a very interesting new client. 13. A customer, clearly an agent of chaos, pulled up and asked for a cheeseburger with mystery cheese. When the baffled employee asked what that meant, they just shrugged and said, "You pick, surprise me." Seeing a golden opportunity for some creative, malicious compliance, the worker placed a single Kraft slice, still sealed in its plastic wrapper, onto the patty. The customer unwrapped his burger, saw the plastic-wrapped cheese, and gave a slow, approving nod. "Now that's what I call mystery," he said, completely satisfied with this piece of corporate performance art. 14. A man once ordered his entire meal by singing it in a full-throated, dramatic opera voice. He didn't just list the items, he performed them, with soaring high notes for the large fries and a deep, mournful baritone for the diet soda. The teenager on the other end of the speaker was so stunned into silence that the manager had to take over. When the man reached the window to pay, he simply took a bow. The entire kitchen staff gave him a standing ovation. 15. Ordering at Starbucks can be an art form, but one customer took it to an abstract level. They pulled up to the speaker and requested a cup of water but make it fancy. The barista, likely bored out of their mind from making the same 5 drinks all day, saw this as a challenge. They took a cup of water and adorned it with a mountain of whipped cream and a generous caramel drizzle. The customer received the bizarre concoction, took a delicate sip, and whispered with the reverence of a wine critic, "Exquisite." It was no longer water. It was an artisanal hydration experience. 16. A man, clearly going through something, rolled up to a Taco Bell and posed an existential challenge to the cashier. He looked them dead in the eyes and said, "Give me whatever you think I deserve." The employee, without a moment's hesitation, reached into a dispenser and handed him a single, solitary napkin. The man stared at the flimsy piece of paper in his hand, looked back at the cashier, and let out a long, defeated sigh. "Yeah, that's fair," he whispered, before driving off to contemplate his life choices. 17. A woman pulled up to the window with a request that defied the laws of physics. She wanted a comically large drink. When the employee handed her the largest size they had, she shook her head in disappointment. "No, I mean like cartoonishly big," she clarified. "The kind a giant would order." The employee, a true problem solver, grabbed her cup and taped 3 long straws together, handing it back to her. The woman's face lit up. She nodded, whispered "perfection," and drove off, completely satisfied with the illusion. 18. In news that could only come from one state, a Florida man attempted to pay for his Wendy's order with a live alligator. He didn't just offer it. He casually tossed the 3.5-foot reptile through the drive-thru window as if he were handing over a crumpled 20. The cashier, reacting in the only sane way one can when a prehistoric predator is thrown at them, screamed and called the police. The man was later arrested. This should serve as a public service announcement. While many establishments have updated their payment options, the alligator is not and likely never will be an accepted form of currency. 19. A man pulled up and placed his entire complex order in fluent Klingon. He didn't break character for a second, pointing sternly at the menu items like he was ordering an attack on a Federation starship. The cashier, without missing a beat, responded in perfect Klingon, confirming his order of 1 gag, also known as a cheeseburger, and 2 blood wines, or cokes. The man was so shocked he actually switched back to English and asked, "How did you know that?" The cashier just shrugged and said, "It is a good day to dine." 20. Some customer requests are weird, and some are a biohazard waiting to happen. A woman ordered a milkshake and then, with a completely straight face, asked, "Could you stir it with your hands? I don't trust spoons." The employee, probably running through every health code violation in their head, immediately declined. The woman sighed dramatically, as if she were the one being inconvenienced, muttered, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and then drove off while shaking the cup with a furious, borderline violent intensity. It was less a snack and more of a public cry for help. 21. Behold, a modern-day Sir Clux-a-Lot. A man once glided into a drive-thru line on an electric unicycle, clad in a full suit of medieval knight armor. He gracefully balanced his futuristic steed, lifted his visor with a metallic clang, and boomed, "1 McNugget for the kingdom!" The employees, who clearly get paid far too little to deal with time travelers, didn't even blink. The cashier simply leaned into the mic and professionally asked, "Would you like sauce with that, sire?" In the battle against absurdity, they chose serene acceptance. 22. Some people order a meal. Others order a single component of a meal. And then there are those who order the packaging for the component of the meal. A guy ordered a single napkin. That's it. When the cashier, operating on pure human instinct, tried to hand him a small stack, he held up a hand and said with unnerving seriousness, "No, just 1." The employee, forced to participate in this bizarre ritual, carefully peeled off 1 flimsy ply and placed it in a bag. The man accepted it like a holy sacrament and drove away, a true minimalist in a world of excess. 23. When a customer asked for a burger with an air of mystery, they got more than they bargained for. Instead of being confused, the cashier saw a creative challenge. They took the burger and wrapped it in 3 separate layers of paper, turning a simple sandwich into a culinary nesting doll. The customer had to unwrap each layer to finally reveal the prize within. Upon discovering the game, the customer didn't complain. They just whispered, "Brilliant," and drove off, having shared a moment of performance art with a fast food legend. 24. A man pulled up with a dog in the passenger seat that was better dressed than most humans. The canine was sporting sunglasses and a hoodie, looking cooler than anyone has a right to be. The cashier, on the verge of losing their composure, complimented the dog's style. The owner, completely deadpan, replied, "He picks his own clothes." As if on cue, the dog gave a slow, deliberate nod. At that moment, the employee had to be wondering if they were hallucinating from the fumes of the deep fryer. 25. In a stunning display of self-love, a guy ordered a single onion ring specifically for dramatic effect. Upon receiving the solitary, greasy circle, he immediately got out of his car, dropped to one knee in the middle of the drive-thru lane, and proposed to himself with the ring. As other cars started honking, the cashier just watched the entire one-man show unfold, shook their head, and muttered to a coworker, "That's it. I'm updating my resume tonight." 26. One man decided to treat the drive-thru like a scene from a David Lynch film. He proceeded to eat his entire Happy Meal in reverse while parked at the window. He started by playing with the toy, then drank the soda, and only then unwrapped and consumed the burger, all while maintaining unbroken, slightly menacing eye contact with the cashier. There was no explanation. There was no motive. It was just a pure, unadulterated act of psychological warfare against the service industry. 27. A woman ordered a milkshake, but when the employee tried to hand it to her, she put up her hand and refused to take it. She just stared at the cup with deep suspicion for a full minute, as if she were trying to read its aura. The poor worker just stood there, holding the rapidly melting shake, while this silent psychic evaluation took place. Finally, the woman shook her head, whispered a definitive, "Nah," and drove away, leaving behind a very confused employee and one very unwanted bad vibe milkshake. 28. The audacity of some people is truly a sight to behold. A woman tried to return a fully eaten meal for a refund. The burger box was empty, the fry container was a wasteland of salt and crumbs, and the cup was bone dry. When the manager came to the window and asked what the problem was, she stated with complete sincerity, "I didn't like it." The manager just stared at the mountain of evidence to the contrary and flatly responded, "I can see that." She did not get her money back. 29. A woman, clearly a master of self-deception, demanded that her burger be cut into quarters for portion control. The kitchen staff, happy to oblige such a simple request, neatly quartered the sandwich and sent it out. The woman received her 4 mini slices of burger and then proceeded to eat all of them in less than 30 seconds, right there at the window. It was a valiant, yet utterly failed attempt at dietary discipline. At least she tried for about half a minute. 30. Proving that some animals are more capable than some people, a customer brought their pet parrot to a Burger King drive-thru and had the bird place the order. The parrot, with stunning clarity, squawked, "Fries, nuggets, Coke." The cashier was so shocked they had to get their manager to witness the event. As the bird flawlessly repeated the order, the employee turned to their boss and said, "Dude, that bird speaks clearer than half the customers we get on a Friday night." 31. A customer, apparently confusing the drive-thru with a Michelin star restaurant, asked for their burger to be served deconstructed. The cashier, probably sighing internally, decided to play along. They went back to the kitchen and returned with a bag containing a bun in one wrapper, a cooked patty in another, and individual packets of ketchup, mustard, and pickles. The customer peered into the bag, nodded with the approval of a seasoned food critic, and declared, "Ah, culinary excellence," before driving off to assemble their own meal. 32. Words can be tricky. Someone ordered a burger with nothing on it. The employee, logically assuming they meant a plain patty on a bun, prepared just that. But when they handed it over, the customer shook his head in frustration. "No, I meant nothing on it. Take it back." Utterly baffled, the worker took the bag, removed the patty, and handed back a bag containing only a plain, empty bun. The man took a bite of the bun, nodded in satisfaction, and drove off, finally happy with his meal of bread. 33. A woman once asked for her burger to be pre-chewed. The employee at the speaker asked her to repeat that, hoping they had misheard. She hadn't. She calmly explained that her jaw was tired, and she'd appreciate it if someone could just get it started for her. There was a long, awkward silence before the manager came on the line and explained that, for reasons related to health, sanity, and the general laws of civilization, they would not be able to fulfill her request. She huffed and drove off, presumably to find a restaurant with more accommodating dental policies. 34. You see a lot of pets in cars, but a pet snake is a different level of commitment. A man drove up with a large snake wrapped around his arm like a living bracelet. The cashier, understandably hesitant to get close to a reptile while handling money, paused. The man, noticing their alarm, tried to be reassuring. "Oh, don't worry," he said with a friendly smile. "He's already eaten today." This statement, intended to be comforting, had the exact opposite effect. Apparently, "my predator is full" isn't the calming phrase he thought it was. 35. In a stunning display of commitment to silent film-era comedy, someone ordered their entire meal using only mime. He flawlessly pantomimed holding a burger, taking a sip from an invisible straw, and even counting out imaginary cash. The cashier, rather than being annoyed, became a willing participant in this piece of street theater. They silently bagged the order, accepted the imaginary payment, and handed it over. The two exchanged a slow, deeply meaningful nod of mutual respect before the man drove off, his silent performance complete. It was beautiful, it was weird, and it probably held up the line for 10 minutes. 36. Some people live on the cutting edge of technology, others just draw it on a napkin. A customer confidently tried to pay with a QR code that he had hand-drawn in blue pen on a piece of paper. He held it up to the scanner with the unwavering belief of a true innovator. When the machine, unsurprisingly, failed to read his doodle, he let out a world-weary sigh and announced to the cashier, "Guess the Wi-Fi's down again." Spoiler alert, it wasn't the Wi-Fi. It was the fact that he tried to pay for a $10 meal with arts and crafts. 37. A customer, who clearly viewed the drive-thru as an extension of the local casino, tried to pay for his meal with a scratch-off lottery ticket. When the employee explained that they only accept actual government-issued currency, the man wasn't deterred. He sighed, scratched off the ticket right there at the window, and triumphantly yelled, "I won! Guess I'll take 2 meals then." The cashier took a closer look at the ticket. It was, of course, a loser. The man's momentary joy vanished, and he was forced to pay with a crumpled $10 bill of shame. 38. In a high-stakes emotional gamble for the price of a dessert, a man fake proposed to his girlfriend in a drive-thru, hoping to score some free food. The employees, suckers for romance, totally fell for it and ecstatically handed them a free sundae. The plan worked perfectly until the girlfriend holding the pity sundae turned to him and asked, "Wait, that wasn't real?" The guy, caught in his own trap, panicked and ended up blurting out a real proposal right then and there. Thus, a drive-thru romance was accidentally born, all for the love of free ice cream. 39. Someone once tried to pay for their $20 order with a massive wad of Monopoly money. He confidently spread the colorful bills on the counter, explaining that he had just passed Go and was feeling generous. When the cashier explained that they only accepted real US currency, the man looked genuinely confused. "But this is from the community chest," he argued, as if that made any sense. He was eventually forced to pay with a credit card, muttering about unfair banking regulations all the way out of the parking lot. 40. A customer once asked for his fries to be served at the exact temperature of a mild disappointment. The cashier, after a long pause, asked what that meant. The man explained, "Not hot, not cold, just lukewarm enough to make you sigh and question your life choices." The employee, a true artist, let a fresh batch of fries sit on the counter for exactly 3 minutes before bagging them. The man took one, ate it, and gave a slow, sad nod of approval. "Perfect," he whispered. 41. Some people just want to defy the natural order of things. A customer tried to order a reverse burger. When the person on the headset asked what in the world that meant, he explained his vision. Put the patty on the outside and the buns in the middle. A sort of meat sandwich, if you will. After a moment of stunned silence, the worker replied that they could just give him a regular burger and he could flip it over himself. The man paused, considered this elegant solution, and agreed. Sometimes, genius is just too complicated. 42. In a bold attempt to prove that his body was a temple and also a bank, a man tried to use his gym membership card as a payment method. When the cashier informed him that the economy, unfortunately, still runs on cash and credit, not creatine and charisma, he didn't argue. He just nodded sagely and said, "Makes sense." Then, without another word, he flexed both of his biceps, gave the cashier a confident wink, and drove away without his food. We may never know what his endgame was. 43. A guy in Texas, determined not to dine alone, brought a full-sized blow-up doll as his date to the drive-thru. He propped her up in the passenger seat and even ordered for her a salad because, as he explained to the cashier, she's watching her figure. The employee at the window didn't laugh, didn't scream, didn't say a word. They just took the money, handed over the 2 bags of food, and slowly slid the window shut. In some situations, radio silence is the only appropriate response. 44. A woman pulled up to the window with her cat sitting regally on the dashboard, wearing a tiny hand-knitted sweater. The cashier, delighted by the sight, couldn't help but compliment the cat's impeccable fashion sense. The woman beamed with pride and replied, "Thank you, she insisted on dressing up for this." The cat, as if understanding the compliment, looked incredibly smug and flicked its tail with the casual grace of a movie star who knows all the cameras are on them. 45. One man decided that a trip to McDonald's was a black tie affair. He pulled up to the drive-thru in a full tuxedo, complete with a top hat, monocle, and cane. When the visibly confused employee asked about his formal attire, he simply scoffed and said, "Because this is a fine dining establishment, of course." He then accepted his Big Mac meal, parked his car, and proceeded to eat the entire thing with a proper knife and fork, pinky extended. Class, it seems, is a state of mind. 46. A customer drove back around to the window to complain that his burger was too perfect. He held it up for the manager to inspect, pointing out the perfectly centered cheese, the symmetrical pickle placement, and the ideal bun-to-patty ratio. "It's unsettling," he declared. "It feels artificial. Can you make me another one, but, mess it up a little?" The manager, unsure how to handle a complaint about high quality, just had the kitchen throw another burger together haphazardly and handed it over. The man nodded approvingly and said, "Much better." 47. A woman attempted to order a milkshake, but only the good parts. The employee, struggling to comprehend this metaphysical request, asked what that meant. She explained impatiently, "like the best sip, just give me that part." Running on fumes and confusion, the cashier just handed her a normal, fully blended milkshake and said, "Ma'am, this one is all good parts." She took a sip, her eyes lit up with satisfaction, and she drove away, completely happy with her cup of homogeneous excellence. 48. Someone once ordered a burger, but requested that it be made extra sad. The employee, having clearly reached the end of their rope and the beginning of a brilliant career in performance art, understood the assignment on a spiritual level. They made a burger with a slightly undercooked patty, forgot the cheese, added a single soggy pickle, and handed it over in a crumpled bag. The customer received the pathetic meal, took one slow, contemplative bite, stared into the void, and whispered, "Perfect. We're all worried about you, sad burger guy." 49. A man rolled up to a Starbucks and ordered an espresso for his hamster, who was sitting in a tiny carrier on the passenger seat. He specified that it needed to be extra tiny with just a hint of cinnamon. Instead of calling security, the barista, a true champion of the people and rodents, actually made a miniature hamstercino. They frothed a tiny bit of milk, put it in a bottle cap, and served it with a smile. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of them serve caffeine to small mammals. So, the official list ends at 49. The unofficial 50th spot is now open for nominations, and the comment section is the ballot box. Don't be shy. We know you're holding on to a story that belongs here. What's the most bizarre thing you've witnessed from either side of that window? If you appreciate this kind of meticulously documented chaos, the buttons are there for a reason. Hitting like is your vote for more madness, and subscribing is your ticket to the front row for the next one.